so new and so addictive.
Hi, good evening. You're watching Bloomberg Quint. We have breaking news for you. Vijay Mallya has been arrested in London in connection with a money laundering case. The arrest was made on an extradition process that is currently underway with India. This is a request that India has made. Now, this is the second time that Mallya is being arrested. He was earlier arrested in the month of April, but was released on bail. Now, we spoke to the UK Crown Prosecution Service and they've confirmed that Mr. Mallya has been arrested, that he will be produced at the Westminster Magistrates Court at 2 p.m. today. We're joined on the line by renowned lawyer Harish Salve. Mr. Salve, good evening. Can you talk us through first, just so that we understand what this process could likely be about and where does this process go from here? So the Crown Prosecution Service told me that since he had gotten bail the last time round, there's a good chance he might get bail this time round as well.
Yeah, this is, I don't know any details. I've just come into Delhi. And I've also heard this news because I'm not in touch with him. He's now being advised by the English immigration lawyers. But what I assume is that there was a case which has been filed against IDBI, and in which I think the former managing director of IDBI was also arrested with a few officials.
Right.
And one dimension of this was, of course, the allegations of money laundering.
Right, sir.
i.e. Obtaining loans by corrupt means and then siphoning them. So I believe both the allegations are something of that kind. So this must have formally started a second extradition process. And ultimately, as a matter of procedure, the two will be possibly heard together because they are overlapping, although technically there are two cases, so they may be heard side by side. The process is exactly the same as in India because you first have to surrender to the police, so the police would have formally arrested you. And as in India, upon arrest, you will be produced before the magistrate's court. So you will be produced before the magistrate's court. And as in the last case, he will be released on bail. I mean, I don't see any reason why this time over bail will be denied. He will be put to the same conditions, saying there are some conditions about keeping himself available all the time, etc., etc. They'll all apply equally, and you have to now face further rounds of proceedings as they start.
Mr. Salve, can you explain to us what the process from here onwards would be at all, since you're so familiar with UK law? I know that he will most likely get bail. It isn't so controversial in India as it may be. It isn't so controversial in the UK as it may be here in India. But from there on, I mean, why would there have to be a second arrest when there was a first arrest in April this year, when he was released on bail?
You must understand, to give you a very lay kind of an example, if there is a murder or if you commit one offense and then you commit a completely different offense, there may be a broad commercial connection, but there are two distinct offenses. To the best of my recollection, the first one was for some cheating and for some non-payment of loans for a set of loans. There is a fresh charge sheet which has been filed with specific allegations of corruption in relation to IDBI, because that raises IDBI being a government bank. I remember the IDBI, I think at that time managing director, Mr. Agarwal, his name was Agarwal or something like that. He was arrested.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and he, in fact, I think got bail after 45 days. Now, on that, there has to be a fresh extradition request. And obviously, the reason the government has filed a fresh extradition request is not far to seek, because they possibly feel there is a notion in extradition law all over the world of what is called dual criminality. So an offense committed for which you seek extradition should be an offense in the extraditing country.
Okay.
So if something is an offense in India but is not an offense in the United Kingdom, you can't extradite. So that's the difference. Whereas the corruption of public servants and money laundering offenses even in the United Kingdom. So possibly that's why they filed a separate charge sheet. and has started a parallel extradition proceeding.
Mr. Salve, that is very helpful and explanatory. I also have one more voice joining in. Well-known lawyer Satish Manishinde, and I know Satish has worked closely with Mr. Mallya's team often in the past as well. So hopefully he can give us some more perspective. Mr. Manishinde, I did speak with the UK Crown Prosecution Services just a few minutes ago. I spoke with their press office. I asked them what the charges were. They were not able to tell me, but they were able to confirm that Mr. Mallya has been arrested and that he will be produced at the Westminster Magistrates Court at 2 p.m. London time today. And they also said, when I asked them, do you think bail is likely? And they said, yes, he got bail the last time round, so there's no reason why he shouldn't get it this time round. What can you share with us if you have any perspective on what has prompted the second arrest?
For calling me, I must first of all tell you that I'm sitting with a set of lawyers in New York in connection with some other case. And during which time, I heard that Mallya has been arrested again. This IDBI case. This is not an extraditable offense. I have talked to Vijay Mallya, though I'm not his lawyer, I'm vindictively treated by the banks. There are hundreds of people who owe thousands of crores more than Mallya to the banks, and they have siphoned out monies for their personal needs. As far as Mallya is concerned, there is no evidence as of now, which is before any court of law, that any amount which was going to him has been diverted by him for his personal causes. All that the investigating agencies have been proclaiming is that they have evidence that the monies have gone. But as I must put it on record, that in 2004-2006, when the banks were at Mallya's feet, begging him to take loans because he was, flying one of the best airlines in the country, and awarded as the best airline by the Asian conference. There's no reason why Mallya, who is already on bail, should be arrested at the instance of IDBI, the same set of corrupt bank officers who should be dealt with instead of a businessman like Mallya. And in fact, even Mr. Sharad Pawar has gone on record to say that when
unfair to suggest that the IDBI bankers are guilty, but Mr. Mallya is not. Look, I'm in no position to decide who is guilty or not. I'm just trying to understand what could be the underlying charges. The Crown Prosecution Service Office was not able to tell us that. They said, please call us back in 90 minutes. We'll be able to give you more details. And why or what circumstance would warrant a second arrest? What circumstance would warrant a second arrest?
Are the same as which have been repeated earlier. That
but why would that warrant a second arrest? But Mr. Manishinde, in law, explain to me why that would warrant a second arrest, sir.
IDBI filed a fresh charge sheet at the CBI filed a fresh charge sheet at the instance of IDBI, and the money laundering court has taken cognizance. So the Indian.
Okay, Mr. Manishinde, I don't know if you heard my last bit. I think you were trying to explain to me what could have prompted the second arrest. I want to add in one more voice.
Well, that's vindictiveness, total vindictiveness. I must say that if Indian authorities are not going after other lenders and borrowers, I must put both banks and other matters, India would not have lost more than 3 lakh crores.
Yeah, well, Mr. Manishinde, we're not, okay, to be fair, sir, we're not talking about other borrowers. This seems to be a separate case. And I do know in the past. But sir, hold on for 1 second, because I want to bring in one more voice. I'm joined by senior advocate Aman Lekhi, who joins us from Delhi. Aman, Satish Manishinde has been explaining to us how he thinks, in his view, this seems to be harassment of Vijay Mallya. It's impossible for us to judge this, but if you can explain why you think, or what you think could have warranted a second arrest, and why this would play out in this fashion. I understand that he's likely to get bail later this afternoon.
I think it will be pursuant to Red Corner notice, which would have been issued by the CBI under the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty between India and UK, which would actually set out the reasons for his arrest, in terms of which he may have been arrested there, because that is one of the means available with the Indian government to actually get him arrested, pending extradition, or having him brought back under the treaty. So as he's insofar as the extradition proceedings are concerned, he's already been granted bail. This is an arrest. The arrest has to be in terms of something which is different. So I feel that it might be under the MLAT, in terms of the red corner notice, which was issued for the purpose of the arrest in the money laundering case.
Okay. How does this, if it is to be that the reason for why he has been arrested the second time, what would you expect the process to be, Aman?
No, the process is in terms because this is a treaty essentially to assist both countries in investigation of criminal offences. I recollect reading that at one point of time earlier, sometime this year, an attempt to have the red corner notice issued and effected did not succeed because the relevant details were not there. I feel that perhaps what the government has now done is augmented that particular detail and furnished whatever information was lacking and made it comply with whatever further relevant material may have been necessary, and in terms of which the arrest has now been effected.
But explain to me this, and I'm asking both you lawyers this, Satish Manish and Aman Lekhi. This is where I stand a little perplexed. It has to do with one bank, IDBI Bank, if I've understood that correctly, and how those loans were given to Kingfisher Airlines at that particular point in time a few years ago. Why would we need to play this out through multiple arrests? So he was arrested in April, he was let out on bail, he's being arrested today again. The Crown Prosecution Service press office tells me that yes, he should get bail today as well. And this is the nuance of the law. I'm not able to understand, saying what is all of this set to achieve, because it's very possible that he'll be out on bail. So what happens from here on? Where does this prosecution go? Do we see more repeated arrests? Aman, would you like to explain that first?
I mean, what it seems then in that event is that it's basically the government playing to the gallery. And something has to be done to show that it is actually pursuing this matter vigorously and is serious in getting Vijay Mallya back. It has to cater to a domestic constituency which is actually paying for his blood and insisting that whatever has happened has been allowed to happen by a government that actually connived with his actual movement out of India. So I presume the government which is in this legal position is now constrained to take steps which can in some way vindicate its position and show that as far as the government is concerned, the government is keen and on the job to do whatever is necessary. What happens thereafter perhaps is not so much with which the government may be concerned, because as long as this information is flashed that Vijay Mallya has been arrested, an immediate need of the people being sated about the action which is a warrant, which they believe is warranted against Vijay Mallya, would be achieved. And the subsequent bail would just be in terms of the legal process in the United Kingdom, with which the government of India can dissociate itself with. So as far as the government is concerned, this may be through use of the legal means or political ploy to make a very telling political statement to show that as far as the government is concerned, the government is in fact vigorously and seriously pursuing this matter.
Well, Aman Lekhi, I get this nasty, suspicious feeling that Satish Manishinde is going to agree with you, because the last time this took place in April, Mr. Manishinde told us that he thought Mallya was a victim of circumstance. Satish Manishinde, what do you make of Aman Lekhi's column saying this is the government playing to the gallery? Effectively, legally, if we were trying to try and understand why we're seeing multiple requests, it may not amount to much.
You see, I don't want to say what the government is doing, but I can only say that the banks are very different. Banks and governments are totally different, though they are, government controlled. The fact is that they have a board. All these board members were running after Mallya at one time. And I think this is total vindictiveness. But English criminal justice system functions totally contrary to what the Indian system functions. And I think Mallya will be out on bail for asking. Thank you.
But Mr. Manishinde, his being out on bail later this evening changes nothing in the extradition process, according to you? That's again, like I said, we're not sitting in judgment. We're just trying to understand what is this arrest supposed to amount to? Does this help the government's case in the extradition process in any fashion?
But this is not going to help the extradition proceedings at all, because the English courts are totally governed by different set of rules compared to the Indian system.
Okay,
I see no change.
You see no change. Aman Lekhi, would you agree with that this does not in any sense assist the government's extradition case in any fashion against Vijay Mallya, and that will have a life of its own?
No, I really don't know if the purpose of this particular exercise should have been to have Vijay Mallya, if the government was actually serious about this issue, the purpose should have been his actual arrest. And if he's going to get bail, as we are predicting, and as everyone is saying, this entire exercise is one in futility, because as far as the process is concerned, the process would be in the courts in the UK, and whatever legal process there would have to be followed, that will have to be exhausted before India either gets Vijay Mallya or takes any meaningful step in that regard to get him back. As I said, this is something which is apart from extradition. And there was an option which is available to the government to actually use the treaty for whatever purpose it felt it could actually apply to. And if the government actually wants to pigeonhole this into this extradition proceeding itself, then this entire exercise would be wanting legitimacy. And as I said earlier, would be something which would be done essentially for the sake of showing that something has been undertaken, rather than pursuing something with the right intent to ensure that the reason for its initiation is actually completed.
Sir, just to clarify, I'm not predicting he will get bail. This was my question to the Crown Prosecution Services press officer. I asked whether he had been arrested. He confirmed that yes, Vijay Mallya has been arrested. I said, what happens next? He says he will be produced in the Westminster Magistrates Court. I said, what are the charges? He said, I don't have information on that to give you as yet. And I said, look, is there any reason why he would not get bail? Because in the UK, bail is not half as controversial as it is in India. And he said, no, ma'am, there should be no reason. Just like he got bail last time, he could very well get bail this time as well. So I'm not trying to predict or foresee what the court might do. But this seems to be the process in the UK. You're better or more familiar with it than I am. In short, what you've told me is that today's arrest may have been triggered by a separate charge of sorts and may not assist the extradition treaty process, the extradition process in any fashion, right, sir?
Yeah, I have no details about why he's been arrested. I just got to know when you gave a call that he's been arrested. As far as the extradition process is concerned, he's already been granted bail. So there's no occasion for his being arrested again there. There has to be an independent cause for it, which I presume may be lying in this money laundering case, for which a warrant of arrest may have been issued, which may have actually culminated in Red Corner notice, which may have been sought to be effective through the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, because that's the only way it can make sense. If there's something more to it, I do not know. But in the scheme of things as they stand, the purpose of this particular exercise should have been to have a more vigorous pursuit of the professed objective of getting arrested. And if the process is going to actually telescope into the extradition proceeding itself, and there'll be status quo where Mr. Mallya is concerned, and that he continues to be in the United Kingdom, then this exercise would, to some extent, be not something which would be worthwhile or meaningful for the government.
Okay, I appreciate you finding the time to speak with us, Aman Lekhi. Thank you so much for joining Bloomberg Quint this evening. We also have one more voice coming in, Senior Advocate Majid Memon joining us on the phone line from Mumbai. Mr. Memon, this is what I've been able to gather from my conversations with other senior advocates, ranging from Harish Salve to Aman Lekhi to Satish Manishinde, that this is unlikely to be in connection with the extradition case, as he was already granted bail, arrested and granted bail in that matter in the month of April, that this was triggered by another money laundering case potentially, and that, you know, we will know later this afternoon once he's produced in the Westminster Magistrates Court what happens next. Bail is very likely. Do you have a better reading of this matter at this point in time?
See, whether it is the same case or yet another case, it hardly makes any difference according to British laws, and this man would have no difficulty in grant of bail. The moment the news broke that he's arrested, I have said that he would be released immediately. It's a matter of formality. He has to only sign a fresh bond. So I think by now he must have been released on bail. That news you may get. Next is that, of course, the request to extradite him is one. There can't be multiple requests. There has to be one request consolidated with whatever cases or charges that the requesting government may have slapped on him. So his team will face that. They would also argue that, look here, if I am alleging harassment, this is yet another instance of harassment, that I have been arrested twice for more or less the same crime, for more or less the same act. You may name it as a different offense under a different law. name it another law, you may name it some another offense, but then after all the act is the same. And if it is so, it is something like dual jeopardy. And of course, British law recognizes all these, legal niceties, and he may get another opportunity of making his defense stronger. But then, of course, these are all matters of merits, which will be seen later. Now that he has been arrested, he may execute a bond. He will be put up once again, probably, before the same extradition court, magistrates court,
but
and
Mr.
proceedings will be
Memon,
same.
I'm so sorry to disturb you or to interrupt you, but as per the last report, when he was arrested in April, he got bailed and he was produced in the court. And at that time, the Westminster Magistrates Court noted December 4th for a 2-week hearing. She also mentioned at that time, the Chief Magistrate, that there were delays in evidence arriving from the Government of India in this case. Mr. Mallya had also tweeted rather infamously at that point in time, saying, they're not going to find any evidence against me. You can't prove anything without the facts. Can you explain to someone like me who does not necessarily understand all the legal nuances here, that what would require the Government of India to arrest the man twice? He was arrested in April, he was let go on bail. There has been a date set for the hearing of this matter in December, which is how the London courts work. They work in a systematic, organized fashion. What would require a second arrest?
In fact, let me tell your viewers, I have worked there. I have worked for 5 years in an extradition matter. A request from India, and which was opposed by us successfully.
Yes, of course, I'm aware, sir.
And we got the extradition request rejected for a very serious charge. Now, in this particular case, it is not a good strategy on our part, that is the Government of India, to have sought his arrest once again, because it is only a poor reflection of our working. How is it that we did not put up this also along with the charges when we first sought his arrest? I think there should be, this is going to be a major question. So therefore, I think it's an additional advantage that we are extending to defense, to show how biased the government is against me. He is going to take up the case of bias as well and prejudices. And therefore, look here how I am being harassed. Here is the glaring example. So I'm afraid that defense also may be taken.
Yeah, fair point, sir. I think we've been trying to understand what the government hopes to achieve through many of these actions and whether it will have any luck in the extradition matter. You're saying that today's actions, if not sufficiently explained by the government, will work against the government's case in the extradition matter when it comes up later in December this year. Let me revisit that extradition matter and ask you if you think, Mr. Memon, there is a good chance that the government may succeed against Vijay Mallya. All right, as is wont to happen in breaking news discussions, we've just lost the guest and his phone line. But I think you got the gist of the developments this evening, that Mr. Mallya has been arrested a second time, that he will be produced in the Westminster Magistrates Court at 2 p.m. London time today. This is what the UK Crown Prosecution Services Office confirmed to me when I called their press office for a confirmation of this arrest. When I asked them what the charges were, they told me you'll have to call back in 90 minutes for us to be able to give you details on that. And when I asked them whether it was likely that Mr. Mallya would get bail this afternoon, they said, well, he got bail the last time round, so we see no reason why he wouldn't get it this time round. Now, bail is not as controversial an issue in the UK as it is in India. It is given out very, very routinely unless you're a serial offender or a serious threat to society, neither of which Mr. Mallya is. The question is, what has prompted this second arrest? What does the government hope to achieve by it? Will it strengthen the government's hand in the extradition matter? Or will it, as Majid Memon and some of the other lawyers on this update have been telling us, will it strengthen Mr. Mallya's defense, saying the government is out to get me? We'll leave it there for now. We'll come back with more developing details on this story later on through the course of the evening. Make sure you tune in to Bloomberg Quint Live.